Yeah, Alternate comes in this game 7-2 on the season. Lost 2 of their first 5 games, but ever since that point, they've gone a little bit of a heater here. Again, like you said, currently sitting third in the standings while games are going on. Extinction Zero, on the other hand, Hunter, we cast this team week 1 against Anomaly, a team that just came back up from the expert tier. And hey, they looked really good. They looked really good in their first 3 games, but then they went on a 6-game losing streak. They were able to right the ship, though, against Hivemind in their last game, which was a good bounce back one for them and really does keep their hopes alive here for a playoff berth. But they really need to get back to their winning ways here now, especially against a squad like Alternate tonight. Like you said, one of the best teams here on paper. And with a couple more wins, you could really see Alternate being one of those teams that, hey, they get moved up to number 2, maybe even number 1 over Daystar. Are they 9-3 now? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, right now, I think the team you're kind of referring to here, a team that started off really good, but then maybe gave themselves a really hard last week and a half. That would be Boot Troop, who's currently, hey, the only undefeated team left here in the NA Masters tier. However, they've only played 7 games so far. And in the next 8 days, or yeah, 9 days, I believe they have to play 8 games. So we're gonna learn a lot about that Boop Troop squad here, but focusing back in here tonight, I mean, for Alternate, this would be their 10th game, leaving them still 5 games to play in 8 days. Still a lot of games, and I feel like that's just the case with a lot of these NA Masters teams. They have really decided to backload their schedule here.
Yeah, that's essentially what's happened here, and it's not just a couple teams. It really is like half of these teams still have to play a lot of these games. There are some teams that, yeah, they have like 12 games under their belt. Again, the team that came to mind before, Shigami Midori, has 12 of their games done. Daystar has 10 of their games done. But then you have someone like Boot Troop, who's played only 7 of those games. You have Young and Beautiful, who only played 9 of their games, that have to play a ton of games in a short period of time. And some teams are going to thrive with that, some aren't at all. We saw that from last season, where Shikigami was able to mount a bunch of wins to end together and qualify for the playoffs, while Alternate, opposite story. Seemed like they were bound for it, but then fell apart at the final hour and just didn't have the time to be able to recover.
Yeah, they still ended up qualifying for it, and they did put up a little bit of a good performance in the playoffs, but it wasn't enough to necessarily get them far in it. But right now, we're waiting for roster to be finalized. Hunter, I don't know if you saw what map we're going to here first. I'm just going to take a guess. It's going to be Oasis.
It is Oasis.
Because that's what we always go to.
It is.
Go to here, but we are now in that true final week of play here for the season. And like we mentioned, a lot of teams have more than, the normal amount of games you're supposed to be playing in a week here. So it's gonna be really wild, about 7, 8, 9 days here, especially as a lot of teams, like we mentioned, have 4, 5, 6, 7, or potentially 8 games left to go here. And hey, it is gonna be Oasis. The bands, though, very, very interesting here, Hunter. Zarya and Cassidy.
Yeah, one of those we definitely see a lot within the Cassidy. Zarya, though, is not a tank we tend to see a whole lot, whether it is in-game or in the bans department, but Zarya is one of those characters that is banned very heavily within the ladder, so I guess it's not the most shocking thing in the world here. Maybe there's simply an understanding of, hey, we think they're going to come out here and would be very willing to run the Zarya, or, hey, we want to run the Orisa and we don't want to have the best counter sitting by for it. So there's a couple ways that you can look at it, but I think neither is inherently wrong.
Well, no, Zarya, I feel like it's started to get banned out here a little bit more, actually a lot more recently. Just because of a couple things, mostly because you talked about one hero, Orisa. Diva really is prominent on this map as well. Winston, still good. Zarya, though, like I've always said, Hunter, and you've definitely heard me say it, not necessarily the meta tank, not that go-to tank, but they're never necessarily the worst tank. They're just sitting outside of it as a good kind of one there to really keep teams on. If you have a really good D.Va player, a really good Orisa player, hey, you just counter it with Zarya and you see what they go back to. Me and you saw this last week. I forget it was NA or South America, where we saw a lot of swaps at the tank position in one map just because they are always trying to get back to the upper hand with which tank was able to counter out the other one.
Yeah, 100%. That's kind of been the way the tank game has been for quite some time, but I think it's more heavy than ever in that territory as we're just waiting for one player from Alternate to get into the lobby. I believe that's Social that we're waiting on. But between both of these squads and the way that they have played, something interesting going on?
No, I'm reading what Juno is typing in chat.
Yeah.
They have COD Grand Finals at 5 a.m.
That's gonna be beautiful.
That's rough.
It's very rough.
Rough,
it's extremely rough.
It's unfortunate as well. Like, ugh. But back to it. Back to this.
Back to the game that is in front of us right here and now. I'm excited for this match because this has potential upset material, which, to be fair, about a week or two ago, either way wouldn't be considered an upset, but the way things have gone for EXN Zero, they need to bounce back in this game right here, because before it was like, a couple of bad games, it is what it is. Now it is, hey, we have to turn this around here or now. We're at 4-6. We still have tough games against Boop Troop, Midori, Kintsugi. We need to get a win here if we're going to give ourselves a real chance of getting to the playoffs. I think this is potentially a genuine make-or-break match for them here.
Yeah, but hey, me and you talked about this a little bit, on Wednesday when we didn't do anything. That NA right now is really random with this. Yeah, you have some teams that are, hey, sitting towards the top, and you can really make a good argument for, hey, they deserve to be up there. But then you have a lot of teams kind of sitting mid-pack, and it's like, they have really good players, but they've taken unfortunate losses here or there. I mean, right now, I feel like a lot of these teams, especially when you look at that probably 6 to 12 range, all they need is a couple wins or a little bit of a hot streak, and hey, they're being talked about as a team that could be that Cinderella story, make a little bit of a deep run in the playoffs. It's very, very interesting because, hey, and you brought up a team, Kintsugi. I believe me and you cast them for the first time, I believe it was a week ago, maybe a week and a half ago. And at that point, we were saying they really need that win to really correct their season, or at least give them a chance at playoffs. Well, ever since that point, they've been able to just get a couple wins in a row, and now they're sitting one win out of basically being in the playoffs if it were to start today.
Yeah, that's kind of been the case, and it's been like a bit of a trend for some teams in that regard of kind of being just inside of the area. Hell, we had a scenario last season where it felt like there was a 4 or 5 team slot where everyone's only thing came down to like map differential and head-to-head. It was so extremely close, and EXN Zero was one of those teams that was just outside of that bubble, and I literally mean just outside of that bubble. As hey, well, I can wipe the sweat from my brow with 40 seconds remaining. Social has connected to the game, and we're able to get on with this. I was like, come on, we get one game this week. There's no way it's a forfeit.
I was getting worried as well, but everyone is here now, and this could be, again, a very important game for both these teams. Yeah, even though Alternate, we talked about, this is their 10th game, they're currently sitting 7-2. They can afford to have a loss, but right now, you really have to kind of look at it as probably around 10-11 wins locks you in safely. 9-10, probably you could say, hey, we're gonna make it. They're not that far away from that number here right now. So this is still a very big match for them. And for EXN Zero, hey, they're finally able to get a win after dropping 6 in a row to Hivemind, who, Hunter, me and you have watched Hivemind, a very impressive team.
Oh, yeah. Able
to beat them here. They are coming in on a little bit of a hot streak, a little bit of momentum here. They want to keep that up as well, because as we kind of talked about, sitting 4-6 on the season, you're in that kind of area where a loss really kind of puts you in that spot where you cannot afford to lose another.
Yep, 100%. When we get into this one, it feels like a make or break for EXN Zero, and for this alternate squad, might be the game that locks them in to that playoff berth. So getting things going, Amity over on the Wrecking Ball. To start out Tools, more than happy to start over on the Hazard. In exchange, and both these characters have had a lot of play time the last couple months within Overwatch. Comes down to that comfortability a little bit here. Sunnyside hanging out below, hoping to grab the mini health. Not quite having the openness, but proven is going to be the first to be taken out here as Temp starting strong as Amity trying to cause a little disruption in the backline, but it's ultimately going to be forced out as we should see a strong start over here as eventually Point going to flip over. Alternate going to start strong.
And you already see Proven going off over to the Reaper here. I would not be surprised if Amity makes a swap as well here for Extinction Zero, just because I think you really want to have a mobile comp. Yeah, there you go with the Diva. So that Zarya ban coming in a little bit early here, or going to find a lot of value here early on, especially if you are now Extinction here. You're going to be able to play a little bit more aggressively. Reaper has been a surprise pick here, not only in FACEIT, but in OWCS as well. Really started to get a lot of play after almost being a very situational hero in the last season.
Yeah, Proven though could be shut down pretty hard here by Tools, who's got to drop off the high ground and back up a little bit with Tools. Manages to find Sunnyside in the process. So now, again, the game already feels out of Extinction Zero's hands. They got to try to pull it back. Proven has got the back out of there. Amity knocked out of the mech. Unfortunately, he is not going to be long for this world. Tools may have gone in a little too deep for their own good, but won't get cared just in time as Extinction Zero gonna have to back out once again, taking a reset full on as Sunnyside got to join them in the spawner.
Ultimate gonna have all 5 of their ultimates coming in this next fight. Yeah, Lampet doesn't have it just yet, but they'll be able to build it up pretty quickly. You're gonna have 3 here if you're Extinction Zero, so you're gonna probably need to. Honestly, I normally say you have to be the first one to throw an ultimate out. No, I think at this point, if you're Extinction, you really want to hold on to them, kite out 1 or 2 ultimates from the other side, and then go in. However, if you wait too long, it's gonna be final fight territory. But at least you get it off.
Yeah, and now Amity, I think made the wrong choice there. Should have probably jumped off the edge and reset, and now they are gonna die without the ability to really reset. You're gonna have to try to run in here and hope that you can remech, and Amity trying to take themselves out there. Unfortunately, it's not gonna mean enough, and now with 90% on the board, Sunnyside's the touch setup, but Sunnyside is barely alive right now.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to be able to get touched there from Proven. Hex might have to invest that beat here just to try to keep this alive. They're going to be able to get it out, but it's only going to be onto them. Kitsune out there from Juno. The beat is going to be celebratory hell. All those ultimates at the end are celebratory. Lampent, and they died there towards the end, but essentially, Hunter, really, Alton only truly used 2 ultimates throughout that entire first point right there to win it. I mean, a really good start here for Alton. Extinction Zero. They had opportunities, but I don't necessarily think the swaps they made really were able to lead to much.
Yeah, unfortunately not really. It felt like they were caught up before they could really do anything. They're trying to play the split-up style, which split-up styles, obviously throughout history, have worked right with an Overwatch. When it's between things like a Reaper and a Diva, and so it doesn't work that often as you might think. So in this scenario, you're going to see them go with something pretty similar. Sunnyside, again, going to TP them out. Probably going to go with the Sojourn, maybe the Tracer, as Juno speeds them out with the Juno, so to say. As Kiriko stays on the board, Ultra feels comfortable with what they're doing, so they're going to stay on it.
Yeah, and I mean, going back over to the ball here, especially for Extinction Zero, I mean, I always call Wrecking Ball's compositions chaos kind of composition here, but you need a lot of communication with your team, and you saw right there, Amity kind of went on their own while the rest of their team was far away from them, and now you already see there, Hunter, half the team is there for Extinction Zero low, but hey, you find Lampet out early. This is the first advantage we've seen Extinction have this entire map. Yeah,
but Point is still being slowly pushed for Ultra. They might just get it for free, and they will, which is strange, all things considered, and now Juno really deep in there, eventually getting taken out. Tools getting pressured, but Temp is still trying to pull this back, and as a matter of fact, this felt like it might simply be theirs, but now the stall goes on to the point. Proven, gonna need a little bit of care to survive, gets taken care of, and that felt so securely in their hands. Unfortunately, it fell apart.
I mean, they had multiple opportunities where they were able to either have the numbers advantage or just being able to get back to even. They just weren't able to capitalize on it here. Sunnyside, though, I mean, already off to a good start here. Not that far. Oh, had to say something about them. Social not that far away from a beat here if you're alternate, which is a really good thing for them here. But now, I mean, just look how far up alternate is playing. I mean, they feel very, very confident in their play style to the point where they're completely okay with potentially maybe overextending.
Yeah, you see Amity trying to create a little bit of chaos, open up the door as pressure being delivered to the point. You're going to see a chase going on. S7 wants to try to take them down. Temp getting forced away. Back to the point. B can be activated. Hex still really far away from their own. Mohiki eventually going to be taken out. Amity can be struggling to do a whole lot on this ball as being pressured back further and further. And while they will live, it's already be 60+%. And Amity, I believe they're on the wrong side of the map.
I mean, that's the problem with Wrecking Ball sometimes, that they just go off and do their own thing. But if you're Extinction Zero here, you just need to get something. I like Proven going over to the Widow just to try to force back alternate here, and it will work out there very briefly, but now Amity has to try to escape with the entirety of alternate right there chasing them down. They're going to be able to stay alive here for the moment, but still, you're now walking into 4 ultimates here if you're Extinction Zero, and you're already down Proven. You have a beat here in Hunter. This is final fight. You're going to have to invest that here.
Yeah, but it is still a winnable game. Pete is hanging around. Mohiki is still trying to stay alive. Actually going to TP out, coming up to a Flux, but it's literally getting head-hunted by Tools, and now Hex. Pete's going to come out in time. Hex going to be kept up. Pulse bomb throw directly onto their face, though, so that's not really going to matter. Mines are on board, but Sunnyside and Amity are going to have to come up clutch for this squad. Mines thrown out there. Amity, no heals remaining. Sunnyside, only person anywhere near the point here. Doing a really good job going back and forth, kind of giving throughout the mines as Tool's getting super low. Unfortunately, Hex isn't able to finish it off, and it should be all sunsetting here as Proven TPing out to try to get back in time, but no touch available, and it felt like they were a second away from having a squad back. Unfortunately, alternate just being too oppressive to start things out.
Yeah, alternate, I mean, this is just a dominant map coming out for them here. I mean, I'm looking at the stats right now from it. Temp went 20-1 throughout the first entire map right there, which is just an insane number when you look at it. And overall, the eliminations, I mean, Sunnyside was the one who had the most for Extinction Zero with 5. The lowest on the side of alternate was Juno, the support player, with 7. I mean, that just kind of tells you how dominant that first map was there for alternate. And you could really tell that Extinction Zero, they made these swaps on the first point. Second point, though, I really think they needed to get off the Wrecking Ball, because as you mentioned a couple times, Amity was just kind of off doing their own thing, and with that Wrecking Ball playstyle, yeah, you're okay with them doing that, but a lot of the times it's coordinating those pile drives with your DPS heroes to really be able to find 1 or 2 picks pretty early on in every fight.
I mean, yeah, 100%. And now in this scenario, it's kind of, you got to figure out how it is exactly. Hey, how do we bounce back in a scenario like this where things don't directly go our way? Well, I'll tell you one map that's pretty good at doing that. That's Circuit Royale, which is going to be a selection for Extinction Zero. They're also going to be attacking first in this scenario. And the ban on top of it is a little weird as well, but it feels like that might be potentially a DPS protection, if anything else.
Absolutely. I mean, it was a Bastion ban coming out here, but you do see Bastion here from time to time, especially on the defensive side, just being able to, you know, lock down that first kind of point high ground, just being able to play up there and rain in a whole bunch of damage. Yeah, you're sort of vulnerable, but still the amount of damage you can put out, very, very strong. But even though I'm breaking it down, like you said, it's probably mostly just a DPS protection ban here. You get rid of Bastion, you still have Mei, you still have Widow, you still have Soj, you still have Cass is back here. You could have banned him out again if it was that one. But on the other side, it's going to be a Rhine ban. And Hunter, while maybe at the start of the season, me and you would have looked at that as, okay, a little bit of a throwaway ban, I think recently Rhine started coming to a little bit more of their own. You started to see it played a little bit more, and you really started to see it played a little bit more on this map in particular.
Yeah, I have a theory right now. I think both teams think they're facing emote down mid right now. I think that's what's happening here.
Maybe banning out Doomfist or Wrecking Ball.
You got Ryan and Bastion feel like very EDM characters. But either way, I don't mind it. You know, at the end of the day, Reinhardt's getting a little bit of play. Bastion's a really good tool in some of these scenarios, so I can't blame either one inherently. Plus, you know, it's one of those maps where it feels like you can get away with a lot of things on a map like Circuit Royale. So, again, can't necessarily blame them for the route that they're going down. Because we have seen teams go out with that Reinhardt and play a super aggressive style with TPs. I forget what team specifically did it all the time. It wasn't EDM, it was a different team that used this and on Circuit Royale and pretty much got through the first 2 points immediately because they used that situation.
I think it was Dreamland turned Daystar who really did that a lot last season. And again, you saw a lot in OWCS last season as well, which was one of the main. This was one of the main maps that you would actually see Symmetry played on. Mei, though, is now available still. Sim is still available, and again, this is one of Sim's better maps. But to be fair, ever since the new perks came out here and they got rid of the 25% distance perk on the TP, Sim has started to get a little bit less playtime, especially on this map. But you see coming out of the gates, both sides with Zarya, which again, remember, that was banned out map 1, so we weren't going to see any of the Russian powerlifter there. But but on the other side, though, you do see Alternate playing that Mei Lampet over there on the Freya as well. Again, this is a really good map for Freya. Long sight lines, and again, Freya can just do a crap ton of damage. Doesn't matter that they've been nerfed a couple times. They can just still get a lot of burst damage out there, which is what you want to be doing on a map like this. On the other side, though, Cassidy back in here. Muhiki onto the Baptiste, which is something we didn't necessarily see map 1, but I like it a lot here. No juice, no, my bad, no Freya. Oh my goodness, no Freya this time around. My bad, no Iari, which is another hero you normally see on this map. But right now, I feel like the Bap Lucio kind of combo that we're starting to see a lot recently is really coming back into style.
Yeah, 100%. Sunny Side and Lampet got to be extremely important to this match here. Over on second Royale. Nice stick coming through as Lampet's been fighting a ton of sticks already. It's already 40% to that first bolo, about to be 50. As Amity doing a good job using those bubbles to their advantage, building up some of that charge, they're getting some of that damage, and in turn, negating more of that ult charge. But eventually, one of the DPS is going to have to make a plan here. With a Widow Venture backline, it's all about playmaking as tools. Going to get a little separated away from their squad.
Yeah, but the Widow, again, you always see Widow just try to find that first pick, which is what they're really looking for here, but everyone on that side very, very low on health.
Yeah, understatement of the century as they have to pretty much back out, and now they wait for some of these cooldowns to go back on. Is going to go ahead and make a aggro, nearly get booped up high enough to where they're taken out, but now Sunny Side eventually going to be taken out. Going to throw everything in the kitchen sink at that. Proven sitting super low. They're going to try to go with all-out aggression as Amity has full damage to work with, but they might not have the team behind them to make it happen anymore. They're trying to hold on, burning past that bubble. As Amity being kept alive is honestly pretty massive for them. Oh, no.
Absolutely, but eventually Tool's going to be able to find them there, and honestly, with losing both your Venture, now your BAP, it's just going to be a back out. However, I feel like the back out is just going to be, okay, we'll see everyone back in spawn as Lambert takes care of Sunny Side there. Half the time bank will be gone by the next time you do see a team fight come in here, and you look at the ultimates already building up here for Alternate. You're going to have Bola, you're going to have Amp, Grab, Beat. Blizzard not that far away. You did see Bola come out there from Sunny Side. I believe, no, Lambert's throwing it out. Both Amixes are right there, and they're honestly overlapping each other.
Yeah, and Lambert's gone, and Juno is literally playing Bob and Weave for their life. Tools has gotten rid of one. There's a little fight going in on the sideline over here as B comes out from Social, and that pretty much exclusively keeps Tools alive. Social gets rid of Hex as well, so that is a big display. But the thing is, that was a 3-to-1 ult trade.
A 3-to-1 ult trade, but still, you look at the other side. You have a Beat, you have Grab, you have that on your side basically as well. There's the Grab coming out pretty early, and no Beat. There it is from Hex, though.
Barely in time. Freeze is thrown in as well, though. Bubbles, though, are active. Emmy's the one person who did need to get caught, unfortunately. They did, and Proven is trying to turn this one back around, is getting really close, but unfortunately ran out of their ult literally, I think, moments too late as they're going to try to headhunt right here. Is Kirito eventually going to be taken care of. Social, though, has gotten final blow after final blow, is going to be finally taken out as Proven should eventually get some backup here as Lampet likely not long for the world.
Ooh. I understand what Lampert was doing. They're just stalling the car, but I don't think they necessarily need to do that. You're now walking into this next fight. No ultimates on your side. You're walking into a Bola Grab combo ready to go here for Extinct Zero and Hunter. They really need to get this first point. They need something to go their way. Getting stalled out here, I think, kills a lot of their momentum, not only in the map, but in the series. Social, though, blade swap over to the Lifeweaver, another hero you normally see on this map.
Yeah, Walls used pretty evidently sticking them together. Tools is taken care of, so the power to fight back is 100% here. Kirito's got to hold down the point, but it's pretty much going to be people themselves on the point. One after another, as eventually Extinction Zero is going to break through. It was looking desperate for a moment, and while Lampet does get one on the way out, finally, Extinction Zero getting somewhere.
Social off the Lifeweaver. It was a one life thing anyway. Back over to Lucio, but right now, I mean, Extinction Zero finally able to get that first point there. Not that far away from a Ant Matrix here, so they can really find a lot of space here going up the hill. Bola shot coming out, only going to be on the cart, so not going to find a lot of value there, but that was really the only ultimate there ready for ultimate this early on.
Yeah, now Muhiki right around the corner has to play a little careful, still doesn't really have everything to work with. Muhiki jumps up in the air, is getting booped around like crazy. But looks like they are going to be hanging around, staying alive, still getting a ton of pressure But at the end of the day, it is going to buy some of the necessary space. Get rid of some ult, and now you're going to lose out on 2 before you get any real value. So Amity should be able to start working up here and bursting past this Ant Matrix, killing them away. As Juno dying would be devastating. They're trying to get knocked out of there, and it looks like they should be able to get them out of here. So a reset should be fully intact here for Alternate.
It's going to be fully intact here, but you're only going to have the Blizzard coming up here, which, hey, can win you a fight. But you look at the other side, Beat, not that far away from a grab and the tectonic shock. And Sunnyside, well, they can quickly build up to Ebola. So right now, Extinct Zero getting that first point momentum, and they're just holding it on right now, especially as Tools is getting very, very low.
Yeah, Immortality around the corner, trying to get everybody low. Amity eventually buries 2 of them, and it's just going to be the stall on the fight by Tools and Social. Beat ends up being used by Hex as well, so it is 3 ults dumped in, but to be fair, you had to secure that one because it would have been worst case scenario if you lost that fight.
Yeah, we always talk about on this map, once you lose a fight going uphill here on Circle Royale, it's very, very difficult to kind of break through, especially with the ultimate investment that you had in that fight. There would have been no way you would have been able to do much with just Tectonic Shock on its own. Granted now, Alternate, they have Grab, they have Beat, not that far away from Bola, but the Tectonic Shock already out here now.
And Proven pretty much gets soloed, let's be real there, but it is a trade out, and with Lampic gone, does create an interesting little bit of scenario as they're going to move forward with Tools. They're going to try to take the 4-on-4 engagement around this corner, but you should be able to keep this going if you're Extinction Zero. That is, as Proven gets back into the fight on the Tracer now, as Amity just gets blown up, so unfortunately a fight is not going to take place here.
Much of one. I mean, it's going to be a very scattered fight, but honestly, if you're Proven, you're very happy with that trade you just got. Beat coming out here as well. Alternate, I feel like they're trying to get some momentum back into this map right here. I think they really believe they've let some of it slip away, so they want to get a dominant team fight under their belt, and they're getting that right here. But the Beat was maybe a little bit of an overinvestment, but going back to what I was saying, Proven forcing out the grab there from Tools, I think it's a great trade. However, now they're on the Tracer and getting taken out here early. 90 seconds left to go, Hunter, but they're not that far away from 3 really good ultimates.
Yeah, and they're going to hold up close here because there's no reason not to, quite honestly. You might as well, and if you do get taken out, you get plenty of time to re-engage for that final corner. And at that point, you're going to have the ults to do so. You don't necessarily have to invest here as they're in deep social. It's caught out, wrong place, wrong time. Lampic going to invest, not going to be able to get rid of anybody though, just going to get an Immortality field taken care of as everyone going to eventually be thrown back. And Tools is currently in what we like to call no man's land. Does have bubbles to keep them up a little bit longer though, as they're still sustaining pretty well, all things considered, but eventually they're going to be run down.
This is one of those moments where if you're still alive right now for Alternate, you're not dying on car, you're just trying to get out. Juno, though, finding one here, but eventually to fall Lampet. Again, like I said, this is one of those moments. You just try to find that exit as fast as you can, proving they're going to be able to chase them down and get the bubble for some protection. That's a deadly stagger, and Hunter, look at what Extinct Zero is coming out to here. They have Grab, Bola, Pulse Bomb, not that far away from a Beat. They can really complete this map here, but they need to be able to find value. Social coming back out on the Mercy just to get Lampet back up.
That is a choice if I have ever seen one. Mercy here in my NA Master Tier. We'll see what happens. Bowl shot is right around the corner. Freeze is going to be activated. Kiriko, of all people, ends up getting taken out first, but you gotta throw the ult in eventually. As Sunnyside waiting for the right moment, someone's got to go ahead and get the retouch, and it comes in just in time. Tools, he's going to get soloed basically as Grab ends up going down the drain in the process, and now Amity is trying to make it back. Sunnyside is trying to solo clutch this up. Has got rid of one, has got rid of 2, needs a 3rd. People need to make it back as they're trying to scramble. Make it over. Is the hang round right here as Proven sitting at literally 1. There's no recall left of the name. Grab being thrown in, getting rid of 1. Tools getting back into the fight over on the Doomfist, trying to pudge away and force people away from the car, trying to get a little bit of care in the process as we are down to the last couple of meters, Dex. It is coming down to it. The Beat coming alive. Is Proven hoping to get something, but they will complete without them getting back. And Extinction Zero, holy moly, fighting back hard.
I mean, Extinction Zero, I thought they were dead in the water there, especially in that last fight, but give it up to the Tracer there, just making sure they got that contest there, just to make sure they kept it going. The Zarya was there as well, kept it all going there, and those late swaps from Alternate just didn't do anything for them. Nothing to find picks, and all you really needed to do was just find basically that Freya out there very early on, and you would not have had to worry about that. You would have been able to give yourself a winning condition. Now, the only thing you can do is go to an overtime round. But, I mean, like I said, that first point cap for Extinction Zero, I think, like I said, not only did it give him momentum in the map, but I think it gave him a lot of momentum in the series. Because remember how the first 2 minutes went on this map? They were basically getting stonewalled out the gate. They were finally able to get one team fight to go their way, and they never really looked back from it. Yeah, they completed the map with no time, but still, you take that any day of the week over getting just stopped 1 meter before the map ends.
Yeah, 100%. And now, if you're an Extintions fan, you're obviously hoping that they managed to duplicate that same success near the beginning. But Lampet currently sitting over on that Widowmaker to get things started. Sunnyside still, I would say, is going to be rocking that Freya, but Proven on this venture has been a little back and forth, but honestly, I think it's been one of the stronger parts so far of this Extinction squad on Circuit Royale.
Yeah, I mean, it did a really good job on the attacking side. Eventually, they did go back over to the Tracer there towards the end. That's what got them that point cap. It really worked out for them. But it also just forced out a lot from Tools, which, again, is the person you really want to take a lot of that face value right there. As you already see him getting bubble, just charging up Amity. As, again, you see this a lot on this map. The defending team will really let the attacking team just go to his bridge, and then you'll start to see fights, because that is a hard choke to get through.
It is a very difficult choke to get through, but for the time being, things have been successful. Only 40 seconds in, and they're going to get to this overpass bridge. You'll see the aggression coming through from Kirito, hoping to go in and find something, is sitting in a certain position, and it's not one you would want to prefer to be in. Tools gonna get hit with that immortality, has all the charge in the world. Proven gets taken care of. Tools needs to be kept up. They're sitting extremely low, gets stuck, but eventually will be taken care of, and Juno is currently what we like to call no man's land, as they will get deleted, and Lampet is not long for the world either, as that's a super clean fight for Extinction Zero.
And again, this is the downside with having a Zarya comp. Once you lose your Zarya, basically the fight's over. Like, yeah, you could have heroes like Lampet and Sunnyside really take over a fight, but you need Zarya for a lot here. That's why both teams are really running it. Zarya can just get strong very, very quickly here. Juno gonna have Amp Matrix here pretty soon, but Sunnyside get out that boulder shot, which they get thrown pretty early to force some stuff from the other side, and you might need to do it here, especially losing Proven.
Yeah, and Bull Shot can be thrown in. It's not going to get a ton of receipts, but nice jump up right there as Kirito's got the hide around the corner, but Sunnyside gets the explosive damage off. Proven is going to be coming back over on that Pharah. Definitely a bold swap to go with right here. Hoping to find a nice stick, getting bodies super low. So getting hit once. You need to find a stick here if you want to try to make this happen, as Amity's hanging over on the point, but their team seems to be falling apart around them. Only one bubble remaining, and unfortunately, might not be too long for this roll. Trying to get a grab up online, throws it down, but no one is remaining around the cart to be able to retouch. They're getting rid of one after another, but they have to try to stay on here. You're getting back into the fight if you're Proven, but it's going to be too little too late.
I mean, if you're Team Zero, you're not necessarily mad about losing this first point, because you got out grab, you got out bowler shot from the other side. The only thing you invested, yeah, you used your own grab, but you got 2 ultimates out of it. I think you're fine with that there. Granted, though, Time Bank is definitely on the side of alternate here, as they have 4 minutes going up the hill, while I believe on the other side it was only about 2.5 minutes for Extinction Zero here. But you look at Social, having that beat here ready to go. Basically, they have it for free now since that grab came out. Same thing for Hex. The beat is free. They can use it necessarily whenever, but Proven, like you said, Hunter, really being a difference maker here on this venture.
Yeah, and now aggressive beat, and Hex going to throw it directly back into their face. Pretty reasonable, all things considered. Tools is going to get taken care of as a result. And now you want to get as many bodies as possible, as slowly as possible, as eventually Sport Line going to be finished off. 3.5 minutes on the clock here, as this is where we see a lot of teams have difficulty being held.
Yeah, we talked about it. It's very hard to get back to the card here after you lose going up the hill. There's only one way to truly get up there, and that's you have to go up the hill. Bullish other coming out from Sunnyside. Sunnyside now might be a little bit too far back, but hey, you find Hex out there. Kills just being traded back and forth here, Hunter.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, it's gonna play in Extinction favor. It's definitely a style of play, but I don't hate it at the end of the day. A lot of people go down, but you should be able to reset in time.
I don't think it necessarily works in Extinction Zero's favor. It's alternate with the closer spawns. Yeah, you do have Hex there, get everyone back out, so it's going to work out in their favor this time around. But you have another fight go like that where it's 50-50, especially keeping Amity alive, was probably the only reason you still see Extinction Zero contesting the fight.
Yeah, but you do get to a super low. Kirito is going to be hanging around as Bubble gonna be able to keep people alive momentarily. Sunnyside does eventually go down, but the damage may have potentially already been done. But Amity, perhaps it's a little too big for their bridges momentarily. Hex getting super low. Amity is gonna go up and above from the top rope. Juno taken care of, and now gonna be cleaned up as Proven. Gonna help get rid of the competition. Now 2 minutes left on the board. Grab online for both squads, and neither anywhere close to a B as Social now over on the Illari for some time.
Yeah, I was going to mention that right there. We didn't notice that. But now Lampet also going over to the Reaper here. Again, Reaper's starting to get a lot more play here. But it's going to be really interesting to see just like who's going to be the main target outside of Amity. Probably Proven, but still Proven has get out of jail free cards, essentially, or escape routes. But right now, you're going to start to see the CPS line come alive for Extinction.
Yeah, now it's trading back and forth. Sunnyside, though, has been such a consistent force, as I say, as they get killed away. But it is a 3v3 still. Amity obviously thinking about investing here, but honestly is going to try to get out instead. And there's no speed to be able to chase. A Reaper can chase, but you have Bubble, you have Care eventually coming around the corner. But if Amity goes down, that could be worst case scenario, as they need to run for the hills, but they're going to stay and they're going to invest, they're going to die, and they're going to barely get rid of tools. But you got to wonder whether or not that's going to be worthwhile, and by the looks of it, it might not be.
I mean, you got rid of tools here, but you really need more people here right now. If you're Extinction Zero, Lampin now applying some pressure to the Proven, getting that burrow out, and honestly, because that entire team is right there for alternate, Proven could not have stayed in that one. Now they're back in here, but they've already used a lot, and they're the first one taken out.
Yeah, and you've lost a lot. Tools is going to get back into the fight, and that ends up being not worth it at all. You go in, Lampit doesn't have to use any ults here. You're still hanging around, but I think that investment is... I think they should have kept running for the hills, and maybe it would have worked out differently, but unfortunately, you're the here and now, and Alternate got 2 minutes left.
Again, I understand why they did that there. They wanted to try to make sure that Alternate had the same amount of time to push that they did, which wasn't that much. 2 minutes is not a lot here. Any amount of time you can get off this map, or off the time back right now, if you are Extinction Zero, is very, very key, especially if Alternate completes the map. But you look at what Alternate's coming up to, Hunter. 4 or 5 of their ultimates here. Granted, the support ultimates are ready here for Extinction Zero, but is that going to be able to survive through a Death Blossom, through a Tectonic Shock, and through an Ant Matrix? That's going to be the question.
Well, we are going to... What? Wait, Lip, how did you live there? Buddy, how does that... That's not how that works. It's gonna get booped off eventually, as they're not going to be lucky a second time, but still... I guess this is in their favor, as Amity is eventually gonna have to go and die on the point. So now minute 20 as Lampin, I mean, all right, bud, if we understand.
Yeah, I'm okay with all the ultimates that were used there, other than the Death Blossom. And it might just be because I could not necessarily have seen what was there, or just saw why they used it. But still, you have Tectonic Shock. Granted, though, so does the other side, and they're much closer to their grab.
And Hex goes mega aggro with it, and we sent back just as quickly. Could be a question as to who gets their grab up first, and Amity way closer as Lampin has already gotten rid of Muhiki. So no longer any extra care. Proven gets knocked off the high, and now Amity has no real care to keep them alive to get this grab back and going, and now Hex is simply going to have to die on the cart. Muhiki going to try to get back out there, but there's not going to be a retouch. Proven can try and try and try. But if it happens, it's going to be by a meter, and it's not going to matter. This felt like it was in Extinction Zero's hands, and now they have a 34-second deficit and have to go on the attack first now.
Well, 34 seconds is basically, let's just say, a fight.
Yeah.
And that's it. All it is one fight. But it depends on how these teams play this on the defense side. Do they try to close hold, or do they just do the same thing they did and fight for bridge? Because at that point, if you close hold, I think might be honestly the way to go here, especially if you're Extinction Zero when you get on the defensive side. Alternate, you could kind of afford to sit back and let them push it to the bridge. Like, that basically will get rid of that entire time bank and make it a one-fight kind of map here, or round for Extinction Zero on the attacking side. I don't think we're going to see anything necessarily too shocking when it comes to just heroes played here from either side. I think Lampit's going to stick on the Reaper. Proven kind of teasing us here right now, but still they have the opportunity to really go through a lot of the heroes here and just pick the perks they need because they're in that attacking spot. You saw that a little bit from Alternate for a brief moment there from that DPS line, but other than that, I mean, this is what we saw them play throughout the entirety of the map so far, so I wouldn't expect them to make any changes.
I want another Edmonton playing their A game here. Amity and Tools both at over 18,000 damage. Both having a ton of eliminations on their side, combining for 70 between the two of them. So it has been an incredible display, especially in the tank department as Lampet hiding out as Reaper. You don't want to be the unlucky person to walk into this room. Unfortunately, there is one, and their name is Hex, as Lampet's going to be able to get out of there scot-free. This Hex just never saw it coming.
Yeah, and right now, I mean, you got that one pick right there, but you want to make sure you don't lose one on your own right there. Two would be horrible, but Alternate going to be able to get rid of Sunnyside, and any kind of pick you get here right now for Alternate is huge because it's just basically forcing Exchange Zero into a spot where they have to be rushing into fights here. Ultimate's coming up online though. Sunnyside and basically Juno are going to probably be the only two you really expect to see here if we only have one more fight.
Yeah, and I love the strategy from both of these squads here today between these Zarya, Venture, Reaper styles. Definitely brave, but Amp Matrix around the corner. Amity's not going to have proper time to respond here. Needs to have all the care in the world. One bubble still remaining. Needs to hold on to it, but now without it, they're going to have to go pressure onto the point. Muhiki is going to have that Kutsuni rush ready to go. Is it going to be enough in time, Tools? Yep. No bubbles left. Is going to be potentially burnt away. Eventually will. And now Social just has to hang around, try to make it back to the point. Is Amity going to burn them down one after another? Kirito not be able to burrow underground either. First point feels all but confirmed, and now it is going to be alt central this next fight.
Worst case scenario right there for Alternate. Really, it was. I mean, Tools just a little bit too far pushed up and really on the side of the cart that disallowed or just prevented the support from getting a lot of healing to them there. Now, like you said, Ultimates are going to be online here. It's going to be ults galore. Grabs are going to come out. Proven though, having that death blossom here earlier than Lampet might be a difference maker. Sunnyside though, that Bola might be a difference maker as well.
And they're going to throw them all in, and everyone's being burnt away. Oh my god, and Juno has no choice but to die on the cart. It was every ult available being thrown in there. Station Zero comes in on top, and that could be a make or break fight right there.
That is a make or break fight. That will be the make or break fight because this card, once it rounds its turn going up the second hill here, I think is a big difference here. A lot of times you see the card can stop going up the first hill. The second hill is very, very difficult. And hey, they have beat here. They can play aggressively if they want, and that's exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily hate it, but nobody has gone down yet. Tools have been pressured out, and now Juno can have 8 Mentress around the corner, going to be able to heal for days, as eventually you're going to have to try to run into this Amity sitting super low on healing, as B can be thrown back, and that could be the straw that breaks the camel's back, and I think that it is what is going to be. Kirito gets rid of 2. It looks like that's going to be enough. This will be where the line ends here for Extinction Zero. Still, it's only a minute on the clock. That is more than reasonable of distance.
Oh, more than reasonable distance. A lot of times with a minute, we really expect like, hey, if they're gonna lose, they're gonna lose at that first point, or even before it, at bridge. And sometimes we've seen it as close as that first turn. Almost getting to that second point, Hunter. That makes it very, very difficult now for Alternate. They can afford to lose a fight, and they have to lose it as the first fight. They cannot afford to lose a fight after fight number 1. That's basically it. You don't get any extra time to push the cart after you get the first point here. You have to play fast, you have to play aggressive, which is something we've seen Alternate do already this series. But like I said, I really think that first round for Exchange Zero gave them a lot of confidence, and they were able to settle down into the map and overall the series. Now, they are feeling like, hey, we're going to have a series on our hand here in about 1 minute 34 seconds. All they have to do is just stop Alternate, which, hey, they've shown us they can do that this map.
I mean, yeah, 100%. And I mean, looking at that stat line really quick, we'll talk a lot about this after the map because it's so impressive. I mean, everyone has amazing numbers. The lowest amount of damage in the lobby is just under 8,000. 25,000 healing for Juno. Nearly 22,000 damage for Tools. And 23,000 for Amity. It has been an amazing display, and Lampet is on track currently to get 50 elims on this fight. But we'll see what the case is going to be with 1 minute 34 on the clock for Alternate.
Yeah, again, you have to remember the highest amount of elims I believe we got from Exchange Zero last map was, I believe, 7. So you've seen a big difference here this map already. But again, I like what Exchange Zero is doing here. They're, especially with this big lead they have, they're playing far back, which is what I didn't expect them to do. But it's gonna, because they have that lead, they can afford to do it.
Yep, and that's going to be a weird trade-out. Social going down, honestly, isn't the most hurtful thing in the world, but it is eventually when you're talking about having the beat line up with the grab, because you want to have one up for the other. So that's going to be running a little bit behind, but for the time being, both teams pretty patient in terms of playing this out. And to be fair, you got to be willing to be a little bit patient if you're Extinction Zero.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, if you're seeing 0, you can afford to give up this first point. You don't necessarily need to do anything. And with losing improvement there, look at what Exchange 0 is doing. They're just backing up. They're going to surrender this first point because they know from this point on, going up the hill, you lose a fight if you're alternate. That's the map. Yeah, they're finding all these late picks, but still, they gave themselves such a huge cushion to just be able to, you know, play this defensively, play this passively. And already you see some swaps coming out here. Sunnyside going over to the Venture now. But 16 seconds of the Go Hunter. You're in final fight territory. And honestly, Hex has a beat. Social's far away from it. Tools, though, they're going to have that grab here. And Lampit might not be able to escape.
Yeah, and it's going to come down to who gets this grab first, but Tools is in the right place at the right time. Amity literally barely living, Proven gets solo grab. Eventually he's going to go down, and now Amity needs to be kept up. It is literally a life or death scenario. This grab could be the difference as to whether or not they pull this one out. Literally sitting at 99, needs to let it loose, is waiting for the opportunity, pulls in a bunch of them. Beat is right around the corner, but it's not ready for Social. They're going to get burnt away. Lampit, no, all ready to go, and Exchange and 0 are going to tie the series up.
Like I said, Exchange 0 had that opportunity to play very passively, play very defensively, because they had such a large cushion. And because they played like that, they really prevented a lot of ultimate from being able to build up ultimates, because, hey, you saw one person go down, everyone from Exchange 0 just backed up off the point. They gave them that first point for free, essentially. No big contest, and it worked out for them in the end. The solo grab, I understand why you did that, but you needed to find a little bit more of that grab, because grab is such a strong ultimate, and the fact you only went after a Mei was not necessarily the best thing to do right there. And I'm not saying that's what killed them in the end, because you could go back to their defensive round there in overtime and point out a couple big things that led Exchange 0 to gain as big of a lead as they did. But Exchange 0, like I said, Hunter, after that first round, they really found themselves. It seemed like they calmed down in the map, and now we have a series on our hands.
Yeah, a series it 100% is. We know where we're going for that third map for these teams very quick with their picks. Runasapi, as we're heading over to Push here, and Runasapi is one of those maps where a lot of the games we've seen this season have not been particularly close. We see those teams that end up extending the lead out in the first 3-4 minutes, and it ends up being pretty much a 50-50 trade during the entire exchange here. So, I mean, is this where we expect the cycle to repeat itself? Or maybe, just maybe, after a map like that, maybe we'll have ourselves a close one.
I expect that. I mean, it depends on what the bans are here. That's what I'm going to be looking at here now, because I'm still looking at stats. Venture and Hazard being bans out here. Venture, I think, was a big difference maker for Exchange 0. We talked about how good, I believe it was, I want to say Lampin. No, it wasn't Lampin. Proven was doing on that Venture throughout that entire map. I think that gave Exchange 0 a big opening in a lot of fights, and alternate, they kind of struggled with it at times. Banning out the Venture, I think, is a really good play. At the same time, though, you're seeing Hazard ban out here, and you can go back to map 1, where Hazard really dominated for Exchange 0. So, I mean, for alternate. So I think these are two really good bans, but it's what else does alternate have? I mean, they did show us a pretty good Zarya last map, but I don't necessarily think this is a good Zarya map. However, again, Zarya, like I said, isn't that kind of middle ground of, hey, not meta, not necessarily bottom of the meta, always right there of just sitting outside of what I would say would be the top 3 tanks. Still, you could play it here. I think Queen Orisa, though, finds a lot more value here. Diva, which is something we saw Exchange 0 play a little bit map 1, could make a comeback here. So there's a lot of options here for tank, but alternate outside of Hazard on map 1, you could play Zarya here, but I don't think that's what you're going to want to be doing.
Yeah, not necessarily. Again, it's really not the worst choice in the world, but this is where you kind of have to jump into a different territory here, and this is where something like the Orisa, like the Junker Queen, or even the Diva could come back out. But to be fair, if you're running a Diva, you might just see a Zarya follow up with it anyway. So I'm curious to see what route we're going to go down. When I was watching earlier, and it was EU, obviously, so obviously slightly different situation, but a lot of Winston wasn't playing. Even in like Deathball style, Winston was brought out a fair amount. It was a little weird to look at, but it's not the most impossible thing in the world. But I think with the way these teams have been running, it would shock me to see a Winston at any point in the series, I gotta be honest.
I mean, hey, you never count it out. Winston is always one of those heroes that will be, you know, a hero you see. just depends on what style of dive you want to play. But like you said, deathballing styles Winston's really coming up, especially in EMEA. And I would not be surprised if it, slowly starts to bleed into NA. Maybe not at OWCS level, but FACEIT level. It makes a lot of sense because you could just see it here. And you never know how good a lot of the tank players are on Winston here. But granted, third map of the series here now. It's going to be very, very important, especially for both these teams here. You really want to win this one, put yourself one map away from winning. And coming into the series, Hunter, we talked about how important this series was for both. But again, Extinction Zero looking to continue riding the ship here. Lost 6 in a row, was able to win their last game against Hivemind. Now trying to get another win against a team that would currently be in the playoffs if it started today. They're trying to correct their season here. And after that last map performance, I think they found something.
I think 100% they did too. I think without the Venture, it is going to be a really weird stifle of momentum for them, but I think they have the ability to bounce back because it wasn't solely because of the Venture. I think it's because a lot of the daring attempts that they made, some worked out, some didn't, but those are the things you got to make in these kind of situations, and I'm really happy they took the opportunity to make them. As for the alternate squad, nothing you should see should be shocking in the slightest. This is classic, well, I wouldn't say classic Deathball, but in a lot of ways, it follows all the elements of it with that Reaper, that Zarya, Lucio, Kiriko. And on the other side of things, it's looking like Tools, if they go to Zarya, we might have an absolute mirror. And we will.
Out here again, and if you're Extinction Zero, you are fine with this. It worked out for you last map, so it could definitely work out for you again. And, I mean, truly a mirror. I did not expect to see a mirror on this map.
Yeah, I can't say I would have expected it either, as going to be getting out the gate here means there's no excuses in terms of, hey, this person was playing that, but they were playing these. Nah, it comes down to the pure skill and understanding of how this comp works, and you're going to see those balls being used a little bit aggressively from Amity, just hoping to build it up on the back of everybody as Tools goes down first and foremost. Worst case scenario here to get things started, but we'll be able to trade back around. Amity sitting super low, has both of the supports still trying to hang around, but Amity is surrounded, eventually taken care of. So it is eventually going to go over to this alternate squad, but it wasn't exactly one-sided.
It hasn't been one-sided, and honestly been back and forth with Extinction Zero taking the lead here. And right now, if you're Temp and just also, you need to get out. But this is one thing that I started to notice a lot last map. Tools likes to get very aggressive on the Zarya, maybe overstepping their boundaries here a little bit. That's what really, I think, hurt them in that overtime round on the defensive side, and it kind of hurt them in that first fight. Granted, only gave up 2 meters before getting back to the bot. But Hunter, I don't technically think this first fight is over yet. I think we're just seeing a very, very extended first fight, as no team has really been able to win either of the fights, or this fight so far.
Yeah, it really has been the case so far, where it felt like a continuous fight for the first minute and a half. Sunnyside is going to have to Kobe that one out, unfortunately. Not going to get it, as Lee going to start extending more and more forward, as Tools more than happy to hang around. Lampit is going to go aggressive with that bubble attached to them, as B comes out aggressively, and Hex doesn't have a response. So if Amity goes down, this could be heartbreaking, and Amity eventually will go down, and now this, I mean, this is going to extend way beyond just a checkpoint.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to be able to get the forward spawns here right now. And Hunter, we always talk about a lot, and you talked about before it came in. Normally, the first 2.5 minutes, you see this a lot here, where a team wins the first fight, gets these forward spawns, is able just to add on to it, and then all they need to do from there on out is take these 50-50 fights, which is what you see a lot. But granted, 7.5 minutes is a lot of time for Extinction Zero to really figure something out here. Tools, though, getting a little bit too low here again.
Yeah, you know, just a little bit, as they're going to be taken out, but they're going to get the good respawns in this round. The question is whether or not everybody else is also going to get them, but they're being taken out one after another. Social is currently having a bit of a fun time up on the top row with Hexu. You know, they can't seem to find each other. Eventually, they run into each other. We're having the classic battle of the Lucios on the high ground, as it looks like Social, at the very least, should be able to get away, as it is, yeah, they'll get out, and everyone else is going to get the good spawns in the process. Uh-oh.
Ooh, pause.
Interesting.
I'm trying to figure out what for.
Someone had to have disconnected. That feels like the most realistic situation.
That does feel like the most there we go. Sunnyside disconnected for alternate. Yeah, for my bad. Extinction Zero. But I mean, if you're Extinction Zero here, I mean, hey, winning that fight there was huge for them. It really is able to. It was really able to kind of calm everything down, and getting this pause here actually does help them out a decent amount. being able to think about what their next move is. You have 3 ultimates ready to go here. You're walking into 3 ultimates on the other side. Granted, you have a beat, they don't. They have a Kitsune Rush, you don't. So it's going to be interesting what we see here. But again, that grab, I mean, the beat here for Hex is basically going to be used when Tools uses that grab. And again, I think Tools did put themselves into a little bit of a bad spot with that last fight where they, again, maybe were overextending themselves a little bit too far.
Yeah.
Was something that really hurt them there again.
Yeah, I think I'd agree in a situation like that. And going to the scenario that we're in now, obviously, you go in with the deficit. This is how we see a lot of these games go down when it comes to Runasapi, when it comes to push in general. Even though Runasapi is kind of the push map that 95% of teams end up going to, where you get into a scenario where you lose a lot of momentum early on, and it's going to come down to them being able to push back and make this happen, because it's going to be a 3-3 ult trade going back into this fight, especially with Sunnyside. I don't know where they were at with their original percentile, but obviously it's going to be at nothing now. So it's going to be 3-3. It's not going to be the same exact ult, so the difference is Beat going to be online for Hex and Juno going to have that Kitsune Rush, and I think that Beat should realistically be the deal breaker, or the deal maker, I should say, for Extinction Zero going to this fight.
Yeah, like I said, I think that's going to be the decider here. I mean, you're going to have grab ready to go for both sides, but having the beat here for Extinction Zero should really carry you through the grab, and Alternate does not have that beat. Granted, Social could build it up here with a long fight, but I just don't think it's going to be ready just yet. And Amity has been not afraid to use these early. Like I said, not afraid to use it early.
In Tools, they literally throw 2 ults in the Tools, and it doesn't work, and Limpid gets rid of 3. That could not have gone worse for Extinction Zero. Oh, no.
Yeah, that was a blunder. And the easiest way to put it right there, I mean, if you're Extinction Zero, you got the grab, you got Amity, you got rid of both bubbles, you got rid of Suzu. Everything was going your way, and it just didn't go. It just didn't go. Now you look at what Alternate has. Beat, I mean, grab, pulse bomb. Yeah, you still have beat on the other side, and Lambert will fall, but there's the beat now from Hex. It feels like it's just...
Man, these ults are the ults of all time, what I gotta say. But the fight is still ongoing regardless, that's what you can say. But with spawns currently intact for Alternate, everyone who dies is gonna be able to get back very quickly. Pulse bomb gonna stick, and Amity has no bubbles remaining. Uiki, though, is trying to keep the squad alive. Hex goes in super aggro to try to find something, is actually jumping around like a spider monkey, so to speak, but Hex is eventually going to have to back out of there. Tempest said some bad words in the chat as Beat expended, as they want to try to take this thing away right here now. Proven no more cooldowns left, as Sunnyside, I think, looking at for a stick at this point, going to be a little futile, as lead is going to be extended further.
It's funny what Temp said, but you can't show it.
Aw, man.
I'll tell you what it said after.
All right, perfect.
But right now, I mean, if you're Alternate, I mean, still, you have this lead. You're getting back over 60 meters here, and there's still half the time back to go. Granted, you don't have any ultimates this fight, so you're really just trying to kite out some ultimates from the other side. They have Pulse Bomb. They have Kitsune Rush. Not that far away from a Death Blossom here again, which, again, Proven might need to hold on to it for a little bit of a better option this time around, but Lambert barely going to be able to escape with their life there.
Yeah, Kitsune Rush out here. Lampet ends up being taken care of. Tools going down would be extremely massive, but you get a really awkward trade out. Bambi is going to get another. Tools should eventually go down a second on the corner. Amity has gotten rid of 3, by the way, as nobody realistically... I mean, I think maybe a couple people got the forward spawns, but Tools not getting it is what's important.
Yeah, I mean, that could honestly guarantee forward spawns here now for Extinction Zero, and this is what you need here. You do not want to be, you know, pushing in and getting the forward spawns with about a minute to go, essentially putting yourself in final fight territory no matter what. Getting it right now with about 4 minutes to go would be huge for them, but you're still going to have to take a fight. Lampet, though, barely going to be able to get out right there, but still now the Death Blossom out from Proven.
Proven's gotten rid of 1, is going to be able to get back within that Wraith form, going to move in. Tools has a grab, but wisely is going to hold on to it, as eventually checkpoint's going to come through, and this next fight is going to mean everything for these squads. Both are going to have grab. One's going to have beat, but Social is not quite Hewitt.
I mean, we saw this not necessarily matter the last time we were really hyping it up as like, hey, they have beat and the other side doesn't. But hey, Proven just used Death Blossom, so you can see a little bit of a different kind of team fight strategy here for Extinction Zero. Alternate, though, they have a lot of ultimates. That could really be a big difference maker here. Grab is out this time around.
Yeah, that is, again, a grab of all time. It's now a 4v4, and now the bot's being stolen away. And now you have to go in aggressive, and you're eventually just going to get grabbed outright. Hex is dead. You can't beat it. It's another blunder as Lampet gets rid of 4. And again, they overplay their hand with the grab, I feel.
I mean, we had 2 straight grabs that didn't do anything, so I'm happy that Tool's grab was able to do anything, honestly. Led the 4 kills, so you'll take that. And right now, spawns reset, and alternate going to be able to get back the spawns here. 3 minutes left to go. If they can add another 20 meters here, Hunter, it's going to be very difficult for Team Zero to really do anything, because at that point, you could just see these 50-50 fights go out through the rest of the map. The lead, though, is not enough for them to say, like, hey, we can take these 50-50 fights because the bot's not that far pushed up.
Yeah, 100%, and now Lampet has a tool up there. Expansion going to try to hire on the corner, but eventually going to be forced to eventually get out of there. Tools just trying to hang around, holding onto a lot of those bubbles. But the problem is, going into this next engagement, Sunnyside has a pulse bomb ready to go. Needs to find a target, but Juno is now going to be the one to fight back. Hex is going to use the beat for this fight to sustain, but Amity doesn't have the tools to sustain it any longer. Without the take there, winning this would be extremely difficult.
And it's going to be difficult here. I don't think they're going to be able to pull them out there from Sunnyside, not going to be able to find anyone. And, I mean, if you're alternate, that was a perfect fight. Again, we talk about taking 50-50 fights, and even though I said you don't want to be taking them, that wasn't a 50-50 fight. They just backed up and took a little bit of a longer fight right there. And now Sunnyside trying to get out with their life, going to be able to escape, but Amity already very low. The
wow.
finds one there.
Okay. You know, it's just chaos, but the point's still moving, by the way. Eventually, it's going to be stopped as they're going to try to run them down. Proven is eventually going to be able to recover as Tools is in what we like to call no man's land, and honestly, it should be kind of happy up there, honestly, but instead it's going to be hunted down as Proven needs to just hit a shot, by the way, as eventually looks like Tools should die late, but they're going to solo grab, and this is just becoming... It's just becoming a circus, is what I gotta say.
This is, we talk about 50-50 fights. These aren't 50-50 fights. This is just ultimate eating away the time bank here.
Oh, bye, Juno.
I mean, there's a minute left.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, at this point, alternate's gonna be able to come back out and take a fight before the checkpoint here. So they are just really looking at this as, hey, we can just whittle away the time bank here, but I don't like the investment of the grab there, because now you really truly only have a beat. Amity not that far away from their own grab, Hex not that far away from beat, and Muhiki, they have Kitsune Rush here. I mean, it might have been a huge fumble there by alternate.
Yeah, now Proven super low. Social has a beat. Kitsune Rush going to be activated here for Muhiki. Wants to try to extend or more so get this as close as possible, but Tools has gotten rid of Sunnyside. There's a beat sitting on the side. Now the question is whether or not they want to expand it. The question is, we do. There's so many bodies in there. This might be the one that works out. But unfortunately, nobody goes down. There was so much damage ready to go. And now they're being deleted. And it felt like that was Extinction Zeroes to win. They had 3 in there. But the damage wasn't there. And unfortunately, the win isn't either.
And I mean, you're going to get a little bit of overtime here, but I don't think there's going to be anyone that's going to be able to get back for Extinction Zero. Alternate almost let this map slip through their hands, but they somehow come out on top. And let's just say it, Hunter. I mean, outside of the first 2.5 minutes of this game, it was a very sloppy map for both these two teams, whether it just be in team fight strategies, the fights themselves, or just ultimate usages. I feel like there's a lot of points in this map where you could just go back and point and say, this didn't really necessarily make the most sense of why it was used here, but I mean, Extinction Zero did keep it close. Alternate, though, somehow, some way comes out on top, because I really thought that grab at the end was going to be the nail in the coffin for them there. But I mean, the beat did just enough.
It literally just enough. I don't think it could be. I don't think it'd be said how much. If there was an extra half a second in that grab, I think Extinction Zero potentially win that map. I think they were that close, and unfortunately, it falls apart at the last moment. But that unfortunately was a story of, honestly, outside of one good grab that came through earlier from Amity, the grabs of all time is what I will say. Unfortunately, it felt like a lot of them were reaches, and unfortunately, a lot of them got pretty much no value, and it's an unfortunate scenario. It is what it is. The grab can sometimes be risky because there's so many things you have to take into account. If the enemy has a grab on the other side, how many bubbles does the other Zarya have? Do they have a beat or a Kitsune Rush or cleanse ready? There's a lot of things you have to have ready, so it's not meant to be easy, but it feels like eventually you got to get it correct.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But at the end, I think Alternate did a really good job just eating away at Time Bank. I felt like they really just understood, like, hey, we're not going to necessarily win this fight here. Again, I think the investment of the grab was a little bit maybe too much, because I think, I mean, if they end up losing that map, you could go back to that point right there and say, hey, that's probably the reason they lost the map.
Pretty reasonable to say, quite honestly. Definitely some blunders taking place in there, but again, it was a competitive, close map. It was obviously entirely within the favor of Alternate the entire time, but Extinction Zero never felt truly out of it in a situation like this. So, keeping themselves alive, keeping what confidence they can, I think that's good for them. I think they are still able to potentially pull this one back and see how it's going to fall into their favor, as we know the first ban, and I believe that was Reaper, that was selected for Extinction Zero.
Yeah, it was, and it was Reaper, but honestly, if you're Extinction Zero, like, outside that first map, you've had this be a very close series. I mean, if they were able to do a little bit better on Oasis, I mean, you could be realistically arguing that, hey, they might be up 2-1, and even a little bit further, maybe potentially 3-0 in this series. But, I mean, just Alternate came out, was so dominant. It seemed like Extinction Zero was kind of just lost throughout the entirety of the first map. Map 2, I think, gave them a lot of confidence in themselves, because you saw it seemed like they really were able to settle down as that map went on and really put on a really hell of a good performance there. Map 3, it was, again, a little bit of a mixed bag. Going back to some of the mistakes we saw map 1, with their play, Alternates just kind of alts being used at the worst time, and just alts being used in general. It seemed both teams, though, that was what they both got hit with there. But Reaper and Lucio bans here, Hunter. Very, very interesting.
Yeah, both of them seem to go in hand with another, at least from what we've seen so far from these teams today. So now it's definitely going to be... it's going to be questionable as to what comes out here, but I feel like in a situation like this, you're going to go one of two ways. You're either going to bust out like a BAP style, or maybe this is where a Juno makes an appearance, but Juno, I don't think we've seen Juno outside of this series, outside of like a 2-second change to be able to speed people out of the spawn room.
Yeah, absolutely. But right now, it's going to be interesting to see what we see here, honestly, from the teams. We've been seeing a lot of Zarya, but I don't think this is necessarily the map for Zar. Yeah, you could still play her, but I feel like we're going to go back to see something that both teams necessarily want to play, and that's what we see. Again, you cannot ban out the hazard anymore, and that's what Tools goes right back over to. Amity back over on the Wrecking Ball. Wrecking Ball, I feel like, is kind of decisive on this map, kind of split, but I think this is a really good map for Wrecking Ball, especially if you're just able to kind of roll through it. And I understand that's like the easiest thing to say, but you have to understand that it also means, you know, being able to use the map itself to kind of hide Wrecking Ball a lot of the times here.
I mean, yeah, 100%. It looks like they might be sticking to it here. As hanging around, looks like they are eventually going to swap back to the Zarya, though it's not going to be the complete mirror anymore. In fact, it is a complete opposite situation here. Everyone is on different things, to my knowledge. Temping over on that Hanzo is definitely going to be a little interesting. Can find its value. We've seen it come out from time to time from teams, and it's going to be really good for a lot of shield break when it comes to Amity.
Yeah, absolutely here. Hanzo, I mean, yeah, it's a very interesting pick, but I mean, on the defensive side, I don't necessarily hate it. I like that Amity actually went back over to the Zarya here, because especially with Proven on that Bastion, which, remember, was banned out map 1, you can now allow Proven to maybe play a little bit more aggressively.
Yeah, and now this is going to be played a little weirdly. A social forced to go out on the inside. Tools got to run for the hills right now, is literally pinned up against the wall, taken care of. Hex, though, is down and taken care of, looking to find some kind of kill. Proven has gotten rid of their second. This game isn't over yet. It is still a 3v3. Supports are staying hanging around. Proven going to be taken care of, and Sunnyside eventually going to be surrounded, and unfortunately, he got no allies left. His Hamity, yes, little LOL in the chat, as the supports clutch that one up.
I mean, yeah, the supports clutch that up, but still, if you're Extinction Zero, you got 2 ticks there. all you really need to do is just find probably Tools one more time here on this first point, and that should really guarantee you at least one more tick. But now, if you're alternate, you're able to kind of understand what the composition is here for Extinction Zero. You need to play around corners, but still, you cannot allow Tools to necessarily put themselves into a bad spot by over-aggressing, which has been one thing we have definitely talked about here a couple times, especially in the last map, where right now, Tools may be playing a little bit too far up, but they're still in that safe range.
Yeah, so having a good time of it. I'd say Proven is in a bit of an awkward spot, and awkward is about to become deadly momentarily, as they'll be taken care of. Though Amity does end up trading out. Nano thrown in, though. They're going to give everything to get rid of Amity, and it works out beautifully. Trying to get more bodies out, going to try to climb and break through, but everyone else will be able to survive and reset, as ults becoming heavy for both sides.
Yeah, but honestly, if you're Extinction Zero, you got rid of the Nano there. That's the biggest ultimate there on the other side.
Yeah.
Yeah, Blade's there, but now that you know there's no Nano Blade, you look at what you're coming up to here. You're going to have the artillery, you're going to have your own amp matrix, but now you have to deal with the Blade already. Oh my goodness!
Yeah, the Shimada brothers having a lot of fun here today, as it's going to take those 3 ultimates, by the way, get thrown into that fight. But honestly, I mean, with the clip like that, I can't even complain. But now the ult economy is going to be heavily in favor of Extinction Zero.
Oh, absolutely. They're going to have 4 ultimates here with 1:20 to go. They are in great spot. Tools, though, they're down for, needs to be able to basically win them a fight on its own, and it's going to be able to trap everyone.
I can't believe this. Someone's got to call the Esports Commission. Freeze goes out online. It's basically going to solo Tools, and Tools just gets unfrozen out of it from McClellan's. Amity is holding out in the corner, begging for dear life, as Freeze isn't going to find anything, but now there's no more ultimate responses left online or alternate, so they got to get some value here.
Oh, huge anti there from Juno, but losing that Blizzard really does hurt you right there, because that could win a fight on its own. But right now, alternate has the momentum, and they're playing aggressively, but you lose Tools here, Hunter. That's what I said they needed to do. Now, that could be the tick they need here.
It could be. Lampet, though, is still hanging around, though, is having to play Dead by Daylight for a bit, though. Proven's taken care of. This is such a weird style, but it's working out so beautifully. Hex might just have to let this all go, because, I mean, this is do or die. Hex has to let this go right here and now. Eventually going to do it. We're going to find out whether or not it's going to be too little too late. Amity has a grab ready to go. Only 10 seconds on the board. Wants to hold on to it, but unfortunately, I don't think you get to do that. Social is going to be burnt away. You're going to see up on the top rope hanging around is eventually so little left on the board. It's right in the middle of the Shimada brother. And Sunnyside has to make it back onto the point. Juno is an untouchable territory, and this is going to be a full hold, barring an absolute miracle. Big ante. Temp gets rid of another. Temp just cannot be stopped. And we are only 96% away from this game being dusted. Oh, Amity.
Oh. On the doorstep, too. You could literally just 1 inch more, and Amity would have been on point. It wouldn't have mattered. But alternate stopping that cap there is insane. I thought once you got rid of Tools there, you would have been able to get at least that final tick if you were Extinction Zero. But alternate, they're showing us right now why they are in that conversation for being one of the best teams, if not the best team here in this NA Masters tier. Able to find ways to just deny a cap like that is huge. And hey, give a lot of credit there as well to Tools, keeping Amity where that dragon was coming. They kept them in that corner. Without that dragon kill there, Hunter, I don't think alternate keeps that point.
Yeah, I don't think so either in that scenario, and it's unique, and I think a lot of it, at least for those last couple of fights, comes down to Temp. Temp was so freaking consistent on this Hanzo. That's why you're going to see him come back out on it. 14-1, a massive 7 healing as well. I mean, what is there that Temp can't do? As you're going to see a lot of weird things. Well, I wouldn't say weird necessarily, but basically, it's a one-fight territory. You lose a fight, this is over for Extinction Zero, and it could be potentially season-breaking.
I wouldn't necessarily say season-breaking, but it just puts them on basically last chance after that here. Tools, though, on the Zarya this time around, and Amity on the Hazard. So we're seeing a little bit of just a swap here, which is something I did not expect to see.
Yeah, definitely a bit rare here, so not going to have the response, so it's got to be the hold of the century, and that is the way to get it started right there. Proven. He's gotten rid of one, hoping to try to hunt down Social or Juno, and Juno ends up going down of all people, but Amity needs to stay alive, is going to be able to back out, sitting on literally no health, is going to get a little bit of care and gets a extra nice little bit of charge. But Mohiki, of all people, gets caught out. I don't know how it happens, but that could be the thing that ends it right there. Is Amity literally gives their life to get rid of them, and I think that's going to be the trigger right there. Proven he's going to have to go back for a touch, but there's time to regroup.
There's time to regroup, and Hex, they just need to kind of back out. If you're alternate, you keep 3 people on this point to make sure that you're basically forcing Extinction Zero into just one touch after another here. There's that second tick, and you do see the majority of Extinction Zero here getting set back up for a last-second touch.
And Amity is going to have to get another touch right after this. He's going to have to get the punch, but it gets body blocked away from the punch. And Alternate's going to take the dub, take their 8th win of the season, all but confirm themselves for a potential playoff spot. And Extinction Zero are besides themselves 7th loss of the season as Temp on the Hanzo coming up big time to end this final map.
Yeah, coming up huge, honestly. I mean, a lot of this final map, especially the final hold, I think you could really put on Temp's shoulders, saying like, hey, they don't get that dragon kill, they aren't as accurate with these last couple shots, you don't really have that hold go your way. So, I mean, the DPS line here for all 3 of the series really was on one. You can go look out through the entire series stats. They were doing a lot, and that was the big difference here. I thought the DPS lines were really, really good for alternate. Not saying the ones for Extinction Zero were bad, but you can look at the maps at alternate 1 and see a big difference. Extinction Zero, you go back to Circle Royale, you see a difference there where that DPS line really came alive and slowed down alternates. That was the biggest one. That was the map they won, so that was the biggest difference in this series. But again, if you're alternate, a good win here for you tonight. Again, 8 wins on the season. You talk about, does that necessarily lock them into a playoff spot? I'm not going to say absolutely yes, because we have seen some wild things, but it basically puts them into a spot where maybe one more win and you could feel pretty comfortable that you're going to be making playoffs.
Yeah, I think that is the scenario on our hands right here, and it's obviously brilliant for Alternate, the way they have been able to, again, make the season their own. They got there before, they ended up having a pretty decent run in the playoffs, and with the way they're going, they could be poised to do it once again. Obviously, they still have a few games left on their schedule, just to double check and see who they got left and how many that they got left. They have 5 games left, and it's not necessarily an easy stretch in front of them. They have Daystar, Artemis, Anomaly, Amplify, and Boop Troop, which 3 of those 5 teams definitely in that top 8 echelon, potentially going to be top teams going into the playoffs. And not the easiest stretch whatsoever, but if they can at least crack 1 or 2 of those, they could be setting themselves in a pretty prime position in terms of at least seeding.
Yeah, and I mean, right now, I think if you get to 10 wins, I think that kind of locks you in, considering there's a lot of teams already at that 5-loss mark. Probably will be 6 losses by the time they get there. But Hunter, one thing we talked about coming into the series, especially with the rest of the season here, is that there's such a fluctuation in teams that have played a certain number of games that the last week is going to be insane to watch the standings day by day by day, just because, hey, you have some teams that have played 12 games and some teams that have played 8, 7, 9. It's going to be really interesting to watch, because as all the teams finish their seasons and the standings kind of all finalize like that, it's going to be just interesting to see where everyone kind of ends up here. But right now, if you're alternate, hey, I think they're doing a lot better than what they were doing last season. Granted, they got off to a hot start last season, but I think having those losses when they did really helped them out, and they've consistently been a really, really good team here, and especially with this DPS line. I think this DPS line can really take them far.
I think 100% it can. It's been a super reliable duo to work with. Hell, earlier today, I was having a bit of fun. FACEIT posted a little thing. It's like, hey, build a team right here. And guess what? You know what? I built a team, and you know what that team was? I'll go pull it up really quick. Because I'll tell you, 2 people that were in that lineup right there. And guess what? Their names were Temp and Lampit. I wanted that front line right there, because it is such a strong front line to have. Honestly, with any team, they're one of the best duos when it comes to this Masters Division. There's a couple that could definitely be in that same conversation. Like Midori, for example, Cave and Zach are super reliable together. But when it comes to the situation, I like the way Alternate played today. I like the way things keep going for them. All things continue well for them. And when it comes to just today and games in general, feels like a lot happened. So let's do a quick little breakdown.
While you look that up,
Yeah, be my guest.
Extinction Zero, I mean, again, this is a heartbreaking loss for them. They really did get better, I think, as the series went on. But again, I like I kind of touched on DPS lines. I think were the main difference here in this series. They only have 4 games left, and Hunter, this might really be the hardest 4 games that any team has left. Boop Troop, again, undefeated at the moment. Shikigami, which Shikigami's struggling, and they're really struggling to keep themselves out of those automatic demotion spots or relegation spots. Then Midori and Kintsugi, who Midori right now sitting number 1 in the standings, and Kintsugi might be one of those teams that's on the rise here, especially in the last week, where it seems like they have really found their stride.
Yeah, well, I'm about to mirror a lot of your information when it comes to what has gone down, and obviously, Agent Zero, tough situation. I hope the best for them. I always do. But in terms of what's happened, you talked about Butcher being undefeated. That is no longer the case. They suffered a Map 5 loss to Young and Beautiful, which, in terms of stats, is an upset. It's not an upset on paper like this. It's Young and Beautiful. We know they're a good team. But if you want to talk about
they had really struggled. They had really struggled throughout this entire season, and for a team that did, I think, surprise a lot of people last season, and they had a lot of expectations on them this season. We're kind of falling below that, and this win here tonight, I think, really solidifies them again as like, hey, they had those struggles, but they figured it out now, and they really need to kind of lock in here because, like I said, Hunter, 2 more losses, and you could be, saying like, they're going to be fighting for their playoff lives in their final couple games.
Yeah, you don't want to have to do that in a situation like that. We had a couple of other 3-0s take place, which do have their impact. Midori picked up another win, beat Nightmare Rotation 3-0. Kitsugi got another 3-0, beating down Anomaly. Big win for Shikigami, by the way. Map 5 victory against Tanuki. Which obviously gets them a step closer to potentially not being relegated. I think playoffs are potentially out of the question at this point. Not statistically, but they are essentially out. But as long as they remain out of that bottom 2, they could fight to still be a master. Hell, if they stay outside of the bottom 4, they'll be able to come back next season. And there's a lot of teams you could talk about in contention for that. One of the other games I was really excited for, Iliad Artemis, Hive Mind goes 3-1 in form of Artemis, who right now are, I think, a solid win or 2 away from having a playoff spot. And when you have Tanuki and Shikigami still on your schedule, I feel really good about this squad moving into playoffs.
Yeah, Iliad Artemis, I mean, that's been a team that me and you have covered a couple times. Really been a good turnaround as well this season, much like Alternate. Alternate made playoffs last season. Iliad Artemis fought to basically stay in Masters last season. I think they got a win on their final day to keep them in Masters. They really turned around, looked like one of the better teams here. And this is what we were talking about a little bit at the start of the series, where there's a lot of polarity in this Masters here, where you're going to see a lot of teams going into playoffs that have 3, 4, 5, potentially even 6 losses that you could really make an argument saying like, hey, they could go on a run here if everything gets put together, which we almost saw last season with Midori.
I mean, it is basically what we saw before, and Iliad Esports rated us. That's pretty awesome. We love to see it here. Hey, guys, we're basically done here, but we appreciate y'all coming out here. Head Rammer, our boys, our peeps.
Our
say. We'll give credit to all of them. You know what?
Thank you, XYBA.
But no, a lot can change in these last 7 days. I feel like the standing is going to look pretty substantially different. I can see it's a weird scenario with what's left because you have teams like Midori and Hive Mind that have played their appropriate amount of games that only have 3 left, and they have Boot Troop who still has to play 7 games in 7 days. It's
we're tomorrow Saturday. Everyone has to finish all their games by next Sunday. That's 8 days to finish all those games. Yeah. So there's gonna be a wild time here in the next week, Hunter.
Yeah, just for example, there's 2 games tomorrow, 3 games on Sunday, and then it just goes buck wild from there. There are so many games lined up. Literally, Sunday has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games for like the last day. It is going to be insane. There are some bangers in there that we might potentially cover. I think some alternate Daystar looks like it's going to be a phenomenal game. You've got freaking I'm going to keep bringing up alternate Artemis is going to be an amazing game as well. Young and Beautiful Midori could be amazing. Boot Troop Artemis. I mean, there are a ton of amazing games, a ton of top teams that haven't played each other that are going to get opportunities. But of course, that's something we have to figure out schedule-wise. We'll try to get that figured out by the time the weekend is done and over with. But we want to thank y'all for joining us today. Of course, thank you very much for the raid from our friends over XYBA and Iliad, as we love all of y'all very much so. We love all y'all for coming out and supporting us. We'll be here for the final week of regular season when it comes to FACEIT League for both North America and South America. And we'll find out who is going to make those playoffs. And we hope you stick with us for the end of that journey. And we'll see you then.